Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a BC pipeline debate is heating up once again. The U.S. has gone through with the raising of tariffs on steel and aluminum, and there's some confusion regarding an upcoming benefit concert.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin. Here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond. Starting at noon tomorrow, Category 3 open fires are set to be prohibited in the Cassiar Fire Zone, as well as some parts of the Skeena Fire Zone, specifically the Old Caleb portion of the Coast Mountain Forest District and Stikeen portion of the Skeena-Stikeen Forest District. The new bans come about a month after Category 3 fires were also not allowed anymore in the Bulkley and Nadina fire zones. A BC salmon advocate says it's a critical time for BC salmon as negotiations of the Pacific Salmon Treaty are underway. CFTK's Jaylene Matthews has more.
The executive director of the Watershed Watch Salmon Society says that currently BC is losing a lot of its potential salmon stock to Alaskan fisheries, who have less stringent fisheries laws than we do here.
Alaskan interception fisheries, so essentially all the fish that swim out of our BC rivers go out into the open Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Alaska, and they spend a year, 2 or 3 out there, and then they make their way down the coast of Alaska back home to their BC rivers to spawn. And there's a bunch of fisheries in Alaska that are primarily there to nab those BC fish that are migrating back home to BC. And they're catching a lot of our fish. They're catching a growing share of the total catch as we've ramped down some of our fisheries in BC to conserve our diminished stocks. And so in a lot of years, Alaskans are now catching more BC fish than BC fishermen are. And we need them to scale that back so we can get their help to rebuild these stocks so we can all share the wealth.
Hill says these topics are supposed to be addressed through the Pacific Salmon Treaty between Canada and the U.S., which governs how both countries manage each other's fish populations and share information, but that the current treaty isn't dealing with the issue.
They're not taking genetic samples from the catch to tell us what rivers these fish are actually from, and they're not, when they have to throw back species like Chinook and steelhead, they're actually not reporting the numbers, and they're not throwing them back alive like we're required to do here in BC. So there's just a huge array of problems with the way they're managing our fish.
Hill says this is why we require strong leadership from Fisheries Oceans Canada, as well as the Fisheries Minister, to get the best deal for Canada in the treaty, of which negotiations are underway. The chosen Fisheries Minister didn't end up being from BC. Joanne Thompson was elected in St. John's East, Newfoundland.
This government continues to understand the cultural and the economic importance of the fisheries. And I can tell you that I am very humbled and proud to be responsible for this file.
Hill says his hope is that Thompson will be paying attention to BC waters, as we have until 2028 to lock down a strong deal for BC. He says that currently easily a third of the salmon population has been decimated by these interceptions in recent years. For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
The much-awaited decision from the provincial government on the PRGT pipeline has arrived. The Environmental Assessment Office determined that the Prince Rupert Gas Transmission Line natural gas project has substantially started. It means that the project can proceed without a new environmental assessment. The pipeline debate in BC is heating up again, pitting the province against other premiers and newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney. As CTV's Ben Milcher reports, the Premier and members of his cabinet have been unequivocal in their opposition to fast-tracking a new pipeline through northern BC.
Locked in a trade war with the United States, many Canadian leaders see a new pipeline to BC's north coast as a way to diversify the national economy. But the BC government is not on board.
As the Premier said very quickly, that idea doesn't make sense to us.
We've been down this road before when Enbridge proposed the Northern Gateway pipeline to carry Alberta bitumen to a marine terminal in Kitimat. In 2016, the federal Liberals banned oil tanker traffic on BC's north coast, essentially sinking the controversial project. With Canada's place in a shifting geopolitical landscape uncertain, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith thinks the proposal deserves another look.
got to work with where I think we're going to have the most success. And where I think we'll have the most success right now is working on a corridor between Hudson Bay and Port-au-Prince Rupert.
With a new prime minister at the helm promising to fast-track certain projects deemed in the national interest, conditional federal support appears to be on the table.
The world's certainly more divided and dangerous, and the imperative of making Canada an energy superpower in all respects has never been greater.
Pointing to the cost overruns and delays that left taxpayers on the hook for the $34 billion Trans Mountain expansion, BC's ruling NDP doesn't think there's an economic case for another new pipeline.
This would be a colossally expensive and not economic proposal. It's a political proposal, and fair enough. But we have a different view. The Premier has expressed very clearly his view of non-support for that.
With other premiers already voicing support, BC's government is an outlier this time. If a company steps forward offering to take the project on, the province may not be able to stop it. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next is an update on the problems that Williams Lake is facing at the moment. Welcome back. High-stakes negotiations are ongoing after the U.S. followed through with a punishing tariff on steel and aluminum. They're now at 50%. So far, Ottawa hasn't retaliated to the crushing blow to industries that employ thousands of people. CTV's Mark McMahon looks at the implications for BC.
BC's only aluminum smelter is in Kitimat, where the Rio Tinto facility known as BC Works employs 1,100 people and indirectly employs many more. No word yet on what the tariff increase will mean for the smelter, but the business community is hopeful Rio Tinto takes a long-term view.
Obviously, this is a huge hit for the aluminum industry. But again, I know that they will take care of their company and they'll take care of the employees and, really try to do what is best overall for the community.
In the Lower Mainland, the local aluminum manufacturing sector is closely watching any developments on tariffs. Uncertainty, the word on everyone's lips.
It's concerning. To be honest, we're not 100% sure exactly what it means yet because the dust is still settling. But an increase of 25 to 50 obviously makes it that much less affordable for us to operate.
Prime Minister Mark Carney pledging to respond if needed, but not before giving trade talks with the U.S. a chance.
The new tariffs on steel and aluminum are unlawful, unjustified, and illogical. I agree with the member. We are in intensive negotiations with the Americans and in parallel preparing reprisals if those negotiations do not succeed.
At the same time, a plea from the industry to mandate the use of Canadian steel in government projects.
Bridges, highway projects, transit projects, and just the requirement saying, hey, look, we want to see Canadian-made products in those projects would go a long ways to helping us and other fabricators or other steel companies.
Not a frustration about crime and vandalism in Williams Lake. Officers were so shocked with the chaos on their streets that they were going to declare a state of emergency, but it's on hold for now. CTV's Michelle Bernoro has the story.
Whether it's calling paramedics for someone passed out in the front yard or calling police about crime.
They've broken into our shop multiple times, into the house once.
Williams Lake resident Brenda Weeks has seen it all.
We've seen them start fires. We've found numerous stuff they've stolen in the yard.
Her concerns echoed by others.
At one time, they confiscated an axe and machete. And just yesterday, the neighboring business, they started a light of fire.
It's chaotic, it's crisis, and it's fearful.
Williams Lake Council considered imposing a local state of emergency until their cries for help were heard in Victoria.
Council decided not to declare state of emergency.
The province sending an email promising resources. The RCMP committed to deploying the Caribou to Colton Crime Reduction Unit to Williams Lake to assess the situation.
I cannot thank enough to the provincial government, and they at least took our request very seriously.
The mayor says part of the problem they've seen is that even when arrests are made, the accused are often back on the street the next day.
The issue is not only in William Lake, as you know, it's not only in BC, it's all over Canada.
The province and the feds have just downloaded really the crazies onto our streets and made the communities look after them. And we just don't have the resources.
To burn.
Yeah.
They're going to burn these buildings down.
This councillor and some business owners disappointed the state of emergency didn't pass.
So we do a clean sweep of the city, and 3 things. 1, you go to a shelter. 2, you go to jail, or you go to involuntary treatment.
I think it is an emergency if it affects people's lives every day.
Council will review the effectiveness of the promised measures in a couple months, looking for progress on problems they can't battle alone. Michelle Bruneros, CTV News, Vancouver.
Rogers Arena was secured as the venue for a benefit concert following the Lapu Festival attack, but an urgent motion to secure the venue caused confusion and upset some in the Filipino community. CTV's Sinjin Alexander has the details.
Everyone involved in planning this event wants to make it right. Being extra careful, sensitive, well aware this unimaginable attack was only about 5 weeks ago. And so, it was with good intention that the city put forward an urgent motion to secure Rogers Arena.
So for Council's consideration, the motion is titled a Memorial Event for the April 26 Lapu Day tragedy in the city of Vancouver.
It is the word memorial that upset some members of the Filipino community. They didn't feel Rogers Arena was an appropriate venue and said they weren't consulted.
I would characterize it as a misunderstanding. We heard back from the Vancouver Police Department and Victim Services that wasn't appropriate. The families weren't ready. It was too early, and we needed time because they needed to be at the table.
There is, however, great support for the benefit concert, and the motion on behalf of the mayor was the city's way of ticking all the administrative boxes.
The last thing we want to have is the city of Vancouver stands in the way on a technical matter from an event that's being put together with a ton of input from all the different community groups.
There are still lots of details to work out, but we do know Canucks Sports and Entertainment offered the arena at no cost. Ticketmaster and Brand Live are also waiving their fees.
There will be some hard costs with respects to equipment, utilities, some technical staff, but the intention is to charge a very nominal ticket fee.
As for who might play, the hope is to have some of the performers who were at the Lapu Festival, like the Black Eyed Peas. Their current tour ends in July, around the same time the city hopes to honor the victims at what is now a benefit concert. Sinjin Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Now we take a look at both your nightly and weekly weather forecast. On the north coast, the forecast for tonight expects to see rain and clouds with a low of 9 degrees. And as for the rest of the week, it should alternate between at least somewhat cloudy days and sunny days, while the high shifts from 13 to 16 degrees. In the Terrace Kitimat area, the nightly forecast calls for rain as well, while their low sits at 11 degrees. And the weekly forecast expects to get a mostly cloudy day before turning to a prolonged period of sun, and the high will bounce between 17 and 23 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, tonight's weather should be cloudy with a chance of showers, while the low sits at 4 degrees, while the upcoming week is expecting to get pretty much all sun all the way through it, as their own high moves from 21 to 27 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. Highway 16 has construction work, bridge maintenance, utility work, road construction work, ditching, several special events are planned, road sweeping, and mowing. Highway 35 has shoulder maintenance and electrical maintenance. Highway 118 has roadside brushing. Highway 37 has bridge construction, frost heaves, and road construction work. Highway 37A is still dealing with falling rocks between west of Mesiaden and east of Stewart, and the Nishka Highway has bridge maintenance. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is a look at an attempt being made to start a newspaper and why it's happening. Welcome back. Up next is a report from Kevin Chirac on a newly elected Vancouver City Councillor fighting to get stronger protections for local renters.
City Councillor Lucia Maloney, elected in April's by-election, ran on a platform to fight for stronger renter protections.
Tenants, renters don't feel like the city has their backs. They don't feel like they're being listened to.
On Wednesday, Maloney tabled a motion to revive the city's tenant advocacy office, closed by the ABC Majority Council in 2023.
They were receiving less than one call a day. So what we decided to do at the time was to transition the funding for that city renter's office to a nonprofit that can handle those inquiries more effectively.
That funding was redirected to the Tenant Resource and Advisory Center, and Council also pointed that tenant disputes are already handled by the province's residential tenancy branch. But Maloney argues that isn't enough, pointing to the Broadway plan, which is forcing many renters to move under the city's temporary relocation and protection policy.
We're going to have increasing volumes of people being moved out of their homes as the Broadway plan progresses. We need to make sure that we're focused, that we've got the resourcing and staff needed.
So we're building thousands of new rental units in the Broadway corridor, and there are some tenant relocations that need to happen, but we have staff already within the city working on that.
Maloney's motion also called for staff to explore penalties for bad faith landlords and developers. In the end, the motion was narrowly defeated by the ABC Majority Council, but we did catch up with Maloney after the vote. She says she's not deterred. She will continue to fight for renters across the city, and she vows to one day bring the Tenant Advocacy Office back to City Hall. Kevin Chirac, CTV News, Vancouver.
The closure of several Glacier media newspapers last month in Metro Vancouver was a blow to local journalism there. Now reporters are teaming up with unions to try launching another paper. CTV's Yasmin Gandam has the story.
Journalists laid off last month say residents are now living through a local news desert. Reporter Mario Bartel was one of those who lost his job.
These publications served our communities for more than 40 years, and their closure means about 500,000 people no longer have a robust, reliable source of local news and information.
In February, Glacier Media announced the closure of the Burnaby Now, the New Westminster Record, and the Tri-City News, where Bartel had worked for the last 8 years.
Local news isn't just about information. The stories we tell help tie us all together. They contribute to a common sense of connection to the communities where we live, work, and play.
Now he and 3 other reporters from those publications are hoping to create their own, raising $100,000 to do it.
This is going to be a community-owned, community-focused, community-accountable news organization that's run by workers.
The journalists have partnered with Unifor and the Union Cooperative Initiative. It's the first of its kind in Western Canada. The impact of the closures is already being felt, with Port Coquitlam's mayor saying thousands of people have been left without any local news.
It's how we get to know our neighbors and our community. And so I'm really just heartbroken at the loss of that.
West says he supports the initiative, though he didn't specify if he would financially contribute to it.
When the Tri-City News announced their closure, our council was really strong in terms of highlighting what a loss this was and the need for support to ensure that local media, local news can continue, can survive and actually thrive.
The publication will be online with hopes of also creating a physical paper in the fall. Yasmin Gandam, CTV News, New Westminster.
Police in Toronto arrested 10 people and laid over 200 charges in connection with several recent violent incidents like a mass shooting. CTV's Sean Leathong has the latest and a warning: the video of this story is disturbing.
It was the night of March 7th. 3 men entered the Piper Arms pub in Scarborough and start firing, one using an automatic weapon. 7 people were shot, 5 more injured. Miraculously, no one was killed. Police releasing video of the shooting today as they announce,
the Toronto Police Service has arrested 10 men in connection with a series of violent incidences that occurred across the GTA.
According to police, the Piper Arms shooting is connected to 6 other incidents, mostly from early March, in the investigation called Project Nighthawk, resulting in 10 people arrested, 203 charges laid, 4 guns seized, 10 search warrants executed, and 1 suspect outstanding. The charges include 24 counts of attempted murder.
This kind of brazen violence, this disregard for human life is completely unacceptable.
Of the incidents, Toronto police released 2 more videos of shootings they believe are connected, including this one from March 4th near Weston and St. Clair Avenue West, where occupants of a stolen car fire at an unsuspecting person at a tow truck yard. One man suffered non-life-threatening injuries. And this one, also from March 4th, where suspects in the same stolen car arrive at a gas station in the Lawrence Avenue East and Warden Avenue area, where they opened fire on a man who was washing his truck. The victim sustained non-life-threatening injuries.
They're all tow truck related. It is part of the tow truck turf wars that we're going on, and we're hoping now that those that we arrested will really make a difference in the number of shootings that we're seeing.
Police are alleging that all 3 shooters from the Piper Arms have been arrested, while one suspect, 20-year-old Daquan Joseph of Toronto, remains at large.
And now we turn our attention to how the stock markets are looking today. The Canadian dollar is up 9/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is down $24.10. Oil is up 52 cents. Natural gas is down 4 cents. Aluminum is up $19.50. In Toronto, the TSX is up 13.29 points. The Venture Index is down 1.16. And in New York, the Dow Jones is down 108 and the Nasdaq is down 162.04. Still ahead, people walking around a Vancouver park got to see a sight that they'll likely never forget. Welcome back. In Vancouver's Douglas Park, people recently strolling about stumbled upon a scene that proved to be a real hoot. CTV's Andrew Johnson has more.
In this Vancouver neighborhood, things are looking up.
It's an adorable, sweet thing that everyone's into.
It's a feathered attraction, a family of barred owls.
Pretty amazing, like here in the middle of the city.
People first became all aflutter earlier this spring when the 2 young owlets popped their heads out of a tree hollow. Word traveled fast among the local bird paparazzi.
There's been people with their telescopes and people who are knowledgeable and people like me that know nothing.
And people checking out the owls before taking flight themselves.
I'm actually visiting from London. I'm flying back home in a couple of hours, and she's like, oh, you should go check out these owls in this park.
It probably won't surprise you, these owls have even been given names. The parents, Julio and Julieta. They're Owlets, Hooper, and Julia. Are you sensing a theme?
Owl puns are a hoot, and for those who have been making the daily pilgrimage to Douglas Park, so is the effect the owls are having on the humans beneath them.
Even like teenagers will stop on their bikes and be like, are the owls there? Like, it's like teenagers. Like when I was a teenager, I didn't really care about owls, I'm not gonna lie.
For some here, the reaction has been a bit much.
50 cameras pointing at the nest and then running after them as they fly. I've seen that a lot happening, and I think that that's a little overkill.
The city is asking people to be respectful and keep their distance. Most are content quietly soaking it up with a smile.
It's been fun, it really has.
A simple springtime pleasure this neighborhood won't soon forget. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
That's all our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.